this is your pedal setup, Tim. Tell us a little bit more about your pedal setup.
So at the start I have a Boss volume pedal, and I've used this since TCH. I use this one really for controlling EBOs because they're pretty wild and can be a lot louder than the picked guitars and the finger picked guitars, and sometimes volume swells. It's a nice little control pedal. I like to have a little bit of control in my life, and this one is perfect for that. It's pretty heavy, so it's not ideal for travelling. I did used to have this on the pedal board that I had for TCH. I had a ginormous pedal board with about 14 pedals. I've scaled down a lot in the last few years, and this one survived the big curl of pedals that I had because I no longer was using so much, and I didn't really want to carry a ginormous pedal board around with me all the time. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. This is my most recent pedal. It's a fairly standard Crybaby from Jim Dunlop. I bought this quite recently actually. I used it on the No album. I'd been borrowing wah-wah pedals now and then, but I always wanted one of these again. I had one in my old band Shima, but it went missing unfortunately, and I always intended to replace it, but I don't use a wah-wah that much, but I've used it quite a bit on No. There's some sort of wah-wah-y bits and some wild guitar solos. So I guess then next the thing to do is to move on to the Mooer pedals. Now I love these pedals. This was why I got rid of the pedal board, because you can fit these guys in a guitar case. So you can really scale it all down to a small set of pedals. So the first one we have is the Octaver, which is really cool. When you put the EBow through that, it makes quite a intense sound. Also you can make sort of bass sounds and things. It's not too different to the Boss Octaver I used to own. Again, the same as Reverb by Mooer. It's not too different to the Boss Reverb, which I still have actually, but I don't use very often. I use the Reverb. It's fairly decent, tiny packaged little reverb. And then I've got the Echo, which is kind of nice. It's not a full delay, but it's got a nice echo sound to it. You can do some pretty wild effects on there. Use it quite a lot in Rapan as well. And then this is the latest one. Now all the distortion on the No album, which I've been recording, is through a Hustle Drive, and John Hannon, rest in peace John, he had one of these in the studio, and I forgot to bring my amp simulator, which does all my distortion usually, and we tried an MXR like your man from the birthday party uses, but it was a bit too wild, and I was playing into one of Kevin Shields' amps, would you believe, at the studio, not my own one, which was pretty awesome. It was a big Fender Bassman stack, and I was getting pretty wild, but we put the Hustle Drive on, and I decided to buy one afterwards as a birthday present to myself because, well, I really like the sound of the distortion, and I'll show you how it all sounds in a minute. And then the final little pedal is the TC Electronics Ditto looper. I like it. It's just a basic looper. It just loops things. Ideal for like little short loops and stuff, and making soundscapes and things when I'm doing more ambient type work. And then finally, yeah, this is the so the amp is a flat state amp. The Dutton is a flat state, and this is the, if you can see here, the Fender Deluxe Reverb amp simulator, and it's pretty cool. You can do obviously all your gain controls, your treble, your bass, but also you've got a reverb and a tremolo pedal. So I'll show you those, how they play in a second. And then the other piece of live, which is an absolute bind for getting through customs, is the stomp box. And this guy basically sounds like a kick drum. It's a bit of wood with a pickup in it, and I stamp on it, and it's pretty cool. It sort of works. It's pretty portable. Saves me taking a kick drum anywhere, although every time I fly, the customs people tend to hate it because this is a bit of wood with some electronics in it. So I don't know how much I'm going to fly with it from now on, but it's definitely a part of the blues setup that I do. Then another couple of quirks are I sometimes use a Behringer mini mixer just to change levels, have a little bit more extra control on stage. And then finally I do have another looper pedal, which is a Boss loop station. This one's got things like reverse and little banks that you can store things on, so I tend to use this more when I'm working in the studio or working on something to record stuff. I did use it a lot. I picked it up in the States, in fact, when I was on tour, and my Line 6 looper pedal just decided to die on me mid-tour, so we rushed to a guitar shop the next day when I was doing a TCH tour with my friends, the USA is a Monster. So I've had this for a long time, and I actually picked it up pretty cheap as well. The dollar was pretty weak against the pound, so that was pretty handy. So, a little bit of something with them all together. So I'm going to start off using an EBow. If you don't know what an EBow is, I use this to make a sort of bowed sound. It's an electromagnet that you put on the guitar. It vibrates the strings. You can get some really cool effects. I used it a lot in TCH. I've used it sometimes as a background sound in some of my stuff under my own name, Tim Wholehouse. And this is kind of what it does. And using the volume pedal, you can do this. Now, that sounds quite flat, so you can add an Octaver to that. Sounds quite haunting. Bit of reverb. And the echo as well. You can then loop it all up and make some quite cool sound effects. Also use a slide, traditionally used in blues, and I use that some of my blues stuff. It's a small aluminium slide that I got from a guitar magazine in the 90s. I'm not telling you how I got that. You can make some really cool sounds. Then using the slide, sometimes I do this little trick as well. Put the distortion on for this, just to give it a bit of gain. And a bit of wah-wah pedal, why not? And then I'll move on to just a more straight up sort of blues sound, which sometimes when I'm doing the blues set I don't bring all the effects, I just bring the amp simulator. It's basically supposed to replicate a Fender Twin. It gives me some extra effects and it's got some reverb, so it's a flat state amp, so meaning there's no reverb unit inside the amp. It's literally just an amplifier with bass, treble and middle gain controls, as I explained before. And this little guy, amp simulator, has gain, reverb and vibrato. So we can take the gain down and have it more of a reverb sound. I like the flexibility of this pedal, it's really cool. And you can also add some really nice vibrato, which is a feature on the Fender Twin amplifiers, which I don't have because I have a custom made amp, but it's all in this little box made by Boss. So it's pretty cool. With the wah-wah. That was a pretty cool little amp simulator there, so it's really awesome for making different sounds.